No cleaning, no rearranging, no fixing. For the first time, I let the mess sit there, proof that I was done pretending it didn't exist. In the hallway, the photographs watched me as I passed. Smiling faces from birthdays, graduations, holidays, all of them framed in moments that looked happier than they really were. Every picture was the same pattern. Ashley in the center, Mom adjusting her hair, Dad's proud hand on her shoulder, and me, somewhere at the edge, half out of focus. Always there, never seen. I stopped in front of one photo, Thanksgiving 3 years ago. I remembered that day clearly. I had cooked everything, cleaned everything, organized everything. They had thanked Ashley for hosting, and I had said nothing. That silence had become my habit. But habits can be broken. I went upstairs to my room. It still smelled faintly of lavender detergent, the one thing that always made me feel like I still belonged here. The suitcase was already in the corner. I'd packed it 2 weeks ago. At the time, I told myself it was just in case. But now, I realized I'd been ready longer than I'd admitted. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my laptop. The relocation offer was still in my inbox, waiting for my confirmation. All I had to do was click accept. My finger hovered over the button, and for a second, I thought about everything I'd be leaving: the house, the Sunday dinners, the endless chores, the feeling of being useful. But useful isn't the same as loved. I hit accept, and it felt like exhaling for the first time in years. Downstairs, a floorboard creaked. Mom was probably up again, checking if the dishes were done. They weren't. And maybe, when she saw that in the morning, she'd realize I'd stopped cleaning up after everyone. Or maybe she wouldn't. Maybe it would take a little longer, a day, a week, a lifetime, before they understood what it really means when the quiet one leaves. I closed the bag and stood in front of the mirror. I didn't look angry. I didn't look broken. I looked finished. Every story has a moment when the character realizes they're not waiting to be rescued anymore. This was mine. When morning comes, they'll wake to a quiet house, the coffee pot empty, the kitchen still messy, my chair at the table, untouched. And maybe, for once, the silence I leave behind will say everything I never could. Welcome back to another episode of Revenge Takes HQ, where every story cuts deep and every ending hits harder for more power. And emotional stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get in today's tale. The morning I left, the house felt different. Not quieter, just empty in a new way. The air didn't carry their noise anymore, just the soft shuffle of my own footsteps. Every drawer I closed sounded final. Every item I wrapped was a memory I'd decided to stop carrying. I'd always imagined leaving as something loud, slamming doors, raised voices, tears. But it wasn't like that. It was peaceful, a kind of peace I hadn't known I needed. Each box was labeled in neat handwriting: books, kitchen, photos, maybe. That last one made me laugh quietly. Maybe. The things I wasn't ready to part with, but didn't want to take. Maybe was the word I'd lived in my whole life. The suitcase by the door waited like it understood what this meant. I took one last look around the room. The faded quilt, the bookshelf half empty, the faint imprint of furniture against the carpet. Then my phone buzzed. For a moment, I thought it might be my boss confirming my flight, or a friend wishing me luck. But it wasn't. It was Mom. "Come home Saturday to watch your sister's kids." That was it. No greeting, no "how are you?" No "congratulations." Just an order. 2 weeks. 2 weeks since I told them I got promoted. 2 weeks of silence. No call, no message, not even a single "we're proud of you." And now this, a command. Not a question. The weight of that message pressed heavier than the boxes around me. I stared at it for a long time. It said everything I'd always known. To them, I wasn't a daughter. I was a convenience. But not anymore. I opened my messages, typed slowly. "I can't. I'm going to North Carolina today." My thumb hovered for a moment over send. Then I pressed it. That single sound felt louder than any argument we'd ever had. No explanation, no apology, just the truth. Simple, unshakable. I turned the phone face down on the counter and watched the sunlight crawl across the floorboards. The same light that had once touched my childhood toys, my textbooks, my packed lunches. Now it touched boxes marked Leave Behind. The truck driver asked if I was moving far. I told him, "Far enough." He smiled, didn't ask more, and I liked that. As we pulled away, I glanced at the window, the curtain fluttering in the breeze, the pie dish still on the counter. They wouldn't even notice it missing until they wanted something sweet. And when Mom finally read that message, I imagined her face, confused, maybe annoyed, maybe just indifferent. But she'd know, somewhere deep down, that something was ending. The helper wasn't coming home. Some goodbyes don't need words. Some revenge doesn't need fire. Sometimes it's enough just to walk away and never look back. The road leaving Ohio was straighter than I expected. No twists, no turns, just miles of steady distance between who I was and who I was becoming. The radio played an old Temptations song, something about the way things used to be. I let it fill the silence, the one my family had left behind. For the first time, their absence didn't feel heavy. It felt clean. Every mile marker reminded me of something they forgot. My 8th birthday. The cake Mom rushed through because Ashley's friends were waiting. Graduation, Dad leaving early to pick her up from another failed interview. College, them arriving late, distracted, because Ashley's boyfriend had broken up with her. And me, smiling through all of it, pretending it didn't hurt. Back then, I thought neglect was forgetfulness, that they didn't mean to overlook me. But driving now, with nothing but sky and road ahead, I realized it wasn't neglect. It was architecture. They'd built a family dynamic designed to orbit one person, and I was the gravity holding it together. Every task, every favor, every sacrifice. A quiet brick in a structure that never had room for me. I didn't fit into the house they built, so I built my own. There's something strange about driving away from the only version of love you've ever known. You keep expecting guilt to follow you, like headlights in the rearview. But all I saw was open road. The mountains rose like questions I finally had the courage to answer. I didn't owe anyone my life, not anymore. I didn't answer, let her wonder. For 7 hours, I didn't look back once. Not when the hills flattened. Not when the Ohio plates disappeared from the rearview. And especially not when the sun began to set, painting everything in gold and forgiveness. By the time I crossed the Virginia border, I could breathe again. It wasn't the air that was different. It was me. I'd spent 28 years trying to earn love that required me to shrink. But freedom asked for expansion, and I was ready to take up space. I didn't cry when I arrived, didn't call anyone, didn't even unpack right away. I just stood there, in a quiet apartment that didn't know my past, and let silence become a friend. That night, I slept with the window open. No family group chat, no unfinished chores, just wind, and peace that didn't ask for permission. The first morning in Raleigh felt like standing inside a blank page. No footsteps in the hall, no reminders on the fridge, just the scent of coffee, and quiet that belonged only to me. He wasn't much of a guard dog, but he was good company. Someone who didn't expect anything from me but warmth. And that was enough. The world felt different here. Not because it was kinder, but because I finally had space to see it clearly. Every sound was new. The hiss of the espresso machine at the corner cafe, the clink of ceramic mugs, the low hum of strangers speaking without expectation. They didn't know my story, and I liked it that way. Barista. Medium latte, oat milk, extra cinnamon, right? Willa, smiling softly. Yeah, that's right. It was strange, to be remembered for something simple, not for fixing, or helping, or staying quiet, just for existing. The days began to fall into rhythm, not routine, but peace. Work, home, walks, small joys. I'd never realized how much energy I spent holding everyone else together. Now, I used that energy to hold myself. When I spoke in meetings, people listened, not because they had to, but because I had something to say. And slowly, that silence I once feared became my strength. Jackson, if you're looking for something real, skip that one. The ending's lazy, Willa, light laugh. Good to know. I used to pretend I liked every ending, Jackson. Maybe that's why you're here, finding new ones. Jackson wasn't a grand entrance. He was a slow warmth, like sunlight through a curtain you forgot to open. No rush, no demands, just presence. And maybe that's what healing really is. Learning that love doesn't have to be loud, that peace doesn't need witnesses. For the first time, my life wasn't measured by what I gave away, but by what I kept for myself. They say peace feels empty after chaos, but I learned it feels full, full of air, full of light, full of you. It had been 8 months since I left Ohio. 8 months of silence, 8 months of peace. Until that sound. Come early Saturday to set the table before everyone arrives. No greeting, no how are you. Just a command, like I never left. 2 weeks of silence after my promotion. Now, 8 months after my goodbye. And they still thought I was theirs to summon. Willa's face appears in a comment thread. Someone had reposted one of her new photos from Raleigh. It started small, a repost. Then the whispers. Comments. Looks like she's doing too well. Guess she finally found time for herself. Must be nice. Ashley. Mom says you're being distant again. Mom. You could still help with Sunday dinner if you cared enough. Dad. You forgot your roots, Willa. Family comes first. It wasn't anger I felt. Not anymore. Just confirmation. The same voices, the same expectations, reaching through the phone like old ghosts trying to drag me back. I thought distance would change the way they saw me. But some people don't want you to grow. They want you to stay useful. For years, I mistook their convenience for closeness. But convenience isn't love. It's ownership disguised as care. I stared at my phone for a long time that night. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I finally did. I won't be coming. I'm happy where I am. Take care of each other. You've always been good at that. For years, I thought silence was weakness. Now I know it's a kind of power. The kind that doesn't need to explain itself. They wanted the old helper, the quiet one. But she's gone. And the silence they gave me. I learned how to use it. Morning came softly that day. No alarms, no rush. Just light spilling through the curtains like a quiet reminder that peace doesn't always make a sound. My phone buzzed again. The same name flashing on the screen, same tone, same demand. But this time, I didn't reach for it. There was a time when I would have answered, out of guilt, or habit, or hope. But healing has a strange rhythm. It teaches you that not every sound deserves your attention. They've simply adjusted their expectations. But I've adjusted my boundaries. And somewhere between those two adjustments, I found freedom. For the first time in my life, I didn't call back. And the world didn't end. It began. Maybe that's what revenge really is. Not proving them wrong, not fighting to be seen, but living in a way that no longer needs their approval. I used to think strength meant endurance, staying longer, helping harder, forgiving faster. But now I know strength can also mean letting go. Not out of spite, but out of clarity. The day I stopped being the family helper wasn't the day I stopped caring. It was the day I started caring about myself. And maybe that's all I ever needed, to stop waiting for them to see me, and finally, see myself. Peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the decision to stop answering chaos. Thanks for watching Revenge Tales HQ. Every story holds a lesson, and every ending, a new beginning. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.